Welcome everybody to another SCORE and Round Rock Library presentation. It's been a while, Guido. It seems like forever, but here we are again online. Unfortunately, we're not in person, but I see lots of familiar names and faces on the list today. So welcome back to those that we've had before, and to any new ones, welcome again to you too. I'm a SCORE mentor along with Bill Grosskopf, and I just want to take a minute.
What's going on? What's the next steps?
There we go. Okay, to talk to you about SCORE. So there's a number of services we provide. We help people start and run small businesses. That's our goal in life. And pretty much everything that you want to know about us, you can find at our local website, austin.score.org. But there's three things in there you really want to go take a look at. The first one is mentoring. And if you heard our chit chat before, we have about 100 volunteers in Austin, and a good number of them actually provide this mentoring service as well. What we're able to do is pair you up with people who have experience with in all kinds of business activities. And when you have a challenge and you don't really know what to do, it's always a good idea to get some advice from an expert. So you can come to SCORE. If you go to our website, you can see bios of all the folk that are doing the mentoring right now. You can see their backgrounds. You could find somebody that matched up with what you're looking for, or you can just ask a question, you know, I need help with this, and we'll try to match you up as best we can. And the best part about this is it's an absolutely free service. We're all volunteers, and we do this because we get an immense amount of satisfaction from helping people get their businesses running better. Secondly, we do workshops. And so you're in one now, but there's a large library of workshops that we have there. You can browse around through those, sign up for them, just about anything you could be thinking about. There is a workshop available that can help you with that. And third thing are some online resources. There's a third section on the front of the main page there. You can find all kinds of useful documents and bits of information that will help you with your business. So that's about it for the SCORE pitch. If you have a question or whatever, please stick it in the chat, and I'll be here all along. I can answer you. We are recording this session today, so you'll get a link to the presentation afterwards. And you know, usually somebody asks me for the slides. Well, Bill's going to do a live demo today, so he's actually going to go in through the Round Rock Library portal and use the reference materials online. So there are no slides today per se, but the recording will help you go back and follow what he did, so you'll be able to follow along and try out the same things that he shows you. If you have questions as we're going, please use the chat. I'm sure Bill will take a deep breath occasionally, and maybe you may be able to get a question in, but if we don't want you to forget that question or miss it, so put it in the chat if that's more appropriate at the time, and we'll make sure we get it answered before we're done at the end. Okay, so that's it from me from my SCORE, and now I'm sure Gita's got some more exciting things to tell us about the Round Rock Library. I'll turn it over to her. Thanks, Gita.
Thank you, Grant. And I just want to welcome everyone to our second workshop in this series of 4 workshops. All of the workshops, if you notice in this round, in this series, are geared towards preparing you to enter the business plan competition. It's just a little bit of money that we got, and then Dell contributed, and the chamber contributed, and HEB, and before we knew it, our little part of $2,000 became $13,500, and so we were able to do the business plan competition. Our New York Public Library has been doing this for many, many years, over 10 years, and they let me borrow everything from them, and they've been mentoring our library to do this for our community. So the workshops, the goal of the business plan competition, especially when a library does that, the main goal is to show you the wonderful resources for small businesses that your library has, not just Round Rock, but anywhere, wherever you are, your library has wonderful resources. And the one that we're going to feature today is so powerful. I have told you the story. For those of you attended before in person or through Zoom, I've shared the story of how I know of a real person who is part of the Round Rock Chamber. The modules that Bill is going to show you in a little bit, he paid $3,000 for each module. And so it's such a big savings that this library has for you. And so we wanted to make sure all of you use our resources, and that's how this business plan competition, that's the whole idea behind it. So even if you don't win the grand prize or the runner-up, at the end, you will have a winning business plan that you can take to a bank. And like people from SCORE tell me that even an existing business, a business that has been for a long time, needs a business plan. So there you have it. And next week, we're going to do the Gale Business Plan Builder. That's the tool available to you at the Round Rock Public Library. And that's the tool that you will submit. You will input all your data into it. And that's what you'll use to send in your business plan to be judged or to enter into the competition. So please register for next week's workshop. Real quick, your library, you'll need your library card for all of this. Right now, your library card at Round Rock, there's no residency restrictions. You just need to come in person and show us your driver's license, and we'll give you a card. You do need your card for all the resources that I'm going to show you, and especially the one that Bill, this whole workshop is about reference solutions. You're going to need that card to use that resource. So to get these business resources, I am on the library's website, and Bill will walk you again when he's doing his presentation. But here it is. You go to our library website. Remember, you are doing research. So look at all these tabs right on top. Go to the research tab because that's what you're doing. And you will see research by category. As I'm scrolling through, you will see so many databases. These are just digital resources that we pay money for our community. And in all these categories, we have about 84 different resources. And our librarians put them in various categories. For example, law and government. You have all your legal forms right there. For renters, for power of attorney, tenants, for all kinds of legal forms are right there, ready for you to use. So we have wonderful recreational things too. You have music. There are 5 downloads a week, 5 songs. And in my opinion, it's better than Spotify or Amazon Unlimited because you get to keep these 5 songs forever. So now when you come here, remember you're doing research and business. So under this tab, Gale Business Plan Builder, that's the one you will use for your business plan. To submit your business plan, the workshop for this one is next week. The main workshop will be on financial projections because I think a lot of people have trouble with that. Gale Demographics Now is complementary. It's almost like a sister to what the workshop today's workshop is reference solutions. Do you see this right here? This is today's workshop, but Gale Demographics Now is very, very similar, but it gives you data very differently. So you can use both resources simultaneously and get really good quality data to do your business plan. If you look here, we have video tutorials. If you see, we have video tutorials, and look at the amazing tutorials we've got here. Market size and demographics, assessing market risk, choosing a business location. So there's lots of cool stuff for you to get ready to create your business plan. If you have any questions and answer them, I will answer them in chat. And so I now want to welcome Bill Carlson. We've been subscribers. This library has been subscribers to Reference Solutions for over, I think, around 20 years, if not more. And so this tool, there are other tools like that out in the market, but we've always used this one or subscribed to this one because it's so good. And I know you will understand better once Bill takes over and shows it to you, and you'll agree with me that this is such a good tool for small businesses. So Bill, welcome, and please take over from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Geeta, very much. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Geeta, as you were showing all of those various resources and you showed the music, I couldn't help but think of a theme song that would maybe really work for today's presentation. If you recall, and I'm a bit older, there was a group called Bachman Turner Overdrive, and they had a hit song called "Taking Care of Business." So I think that would be perfect. Okay, enough of that. Thank you, everyone, for taking time today. I'll certainly give you a great overview of how you might use the database to help with building your business plan, looking at competition, looking at perhaps some sales numbers that you would want to shoot for as it relates to opening and driving your business. So in fact, I'm going to shut off my camera just because I have a tendency to talk with my hands and I don't want to distract anyone. What I would like to point out, and I'll get rid of that, is we do offer webinars on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you'd like to attend another webinar, you could certainly always do so. We do have some written material under the Learning Center here. So I'll open up that page real quick. First of all, you can always reach out to us, and we have our contact information here in several spots. Certainly can feel free to reach out to us and we'd be happy to assist you. I'll give everyone my email address at the conclusion of the presentation as well, and feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions that come up, maybe later today or tonight. No problem. The information I wanted to show you is under this marketing and training material. So I'll open that tab. And it's the database overviews. So we have one that's related to all of our business database modules, one for our consumer. So if you're a B2C business, you can certainly take advantage of the information we have here. We have one that's inclusive of all those modules. And then, of course, we have a breakdown of each and every one of those business or database modules. So if you're using the US Business Database and you would like some written instruction to follow, you could certainly do so. We also have a data dictionary here for our business and household information. So if you had a question about a certain element in the record, you could probably find your answer here. So know that's always available to you. I do like to point out, because we do have those folks that are app users, if you would like to download that app on your smartphone, you could certainly do so. There are two modules available. That would be the US Business and the US Consumer Lifestyles. Know that that's available to you, as well as you can create your own personal account. And sometimes people think that that's a shortcut to getting into the database. It's not. It's an additional step. You would still log in through Round Rock Public Library, find our link, click on it, then enter your library card number. And once you're on our homepage here, and you always know you're there because you see the Round Rock Public Library logo here, once you're here, you can come in, and after you've registered with that email address and whatever you're going to create for a password, you can log in and you can save any of your searches. We created this particular feature because we were told by our libraries that not necessarily in every situation did someone want to download the information, but they simply wanted to come back to it. So when you register and you log in, you can always get to any of the 9 modules that are listed here. Now there's a 10th one, our jobs and internships. That's the only one that you can't save your searches from. Other than that, all the other 9 ones, you certainly can do that. And I do like to point out, there are different update schedules for these various modules. So let me explain that real quick. Our US business database, which is the one that we know gets probably the lion's share of attention, that's updated weekly. So as we go about making our annual phone call verification calls to these businesses around the country, and the trigger for that phone call is when the phone books come out for your area. We get those sent to us digitally, thank goodness, these days. And we bump that new phone book up against our current database. Anything that's a duplicate gets rejected. Anything that's a business that we did not have in our database before would get accepted. And then we begin our calling process. So we do that annually with the businesses and push those updates out live every Thursday into Friday morning. So know if you've saved a search using the US business database and you come back to that search, let's say 2 months later, that's 8 potential updates that may have changed something about the records that you would look at. So as soon as you select that saved search, we reproduce what you used to build that search, the steps that you took to build that search, and we'll reproduce it real quickly for you and give that to you. So 52 times a year, it's being updated. Whereas our US historical business information, which is being fed from here, that's being updated technically at the beginning of every new calendar year. Our Canadian business information is monthly. Jobs and internships, this is through Indeed.com. So we're updating this universe daily. Our US new business filings. So these are through the Secretary of State's office. We also get information from postal processing because we have a license agreement with the United States Postal Service. So we can get information that way. We also get it from utility hookups. So as we learn about a new business, we're putting that information in here weekly, and we keep it in here for a year. But by no means does it take us a year to get this new business verified. Typically, we're able to verify those new business filings within 30 to 45 days. Then we give them a full record and put them in here, but they're archived in here for 1 year. So that's weekly, whereas our US healthcare, our standard white pages, our consumer lifestyles, and our Canadian white pages, those are updated once a month. And then last but not least would be our US new movers, new homeowners. If it would be of value to you to be able to learn about new people in your community, you have the ability to do that and produce a list. So I'll show you what that looks like as well. This is being updated weekly, and we're getting this through our relationship, again, that license agreement that we have with the United States Postal Service's national change of address. So we're capturing that information and putting it in there each week, and they stay in here for a year. So know you can utilize any or all of these modules if it fits your business model. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and open up the US business database. The nice thing about all of these is they search the same way. Many of the filters are the same. Certainly some are unique to that specific type of module, like company name. You're not going to find company name on consumer information, right? So whenever you open up any module, you'll always come to this quick search. Again, great for looking at one company record, perhaps. Maybe there was an executive that someone worked with at a company, and they learned that that person is no longer with that company, but they're not certain where they've gotten off to. You could certainly try that first name, last name search. Hopefully you can narrow it down to that city and state. You could even do a reverse phone number lookup. And one of the tools that I like to show right off the bat, because it exhibits the power of the database, and I'll just go with Round Rock. So we'll go with Round Rock. First, I have to tell it which state I want to go to. Whenever I'm producing this from the quick search screen, it's only going to produce for me our verified records. We have two other classifications of records that I'll mention to you when we get to advanced search. But this is only going to show my verified records. So across Round Rock, I have a total of almost 7,500 businesses. The tool I want to show you, so follow my mouse, the tool I want to show you is right here. It's this charts tool. It will help make sense of these businesses by type of business. So hopefully you all have an understanding of SIC codes. That's the Standard Industrial Classification Code. Technically, Uncle Sam retired it in place of the NAICS codes. When Bill Clinton was president and first in office, he signed that North America trade agreement between us, Mexico, and Canada. The NAICS codes were born to replace these SIC codes. We've kept these active because we've made them more granular than they ever were when in use by Uncle Sam. So we have both codes. I lean towards the SIC codes over the NAICS codes. You could always, if you have to include it in a report, let's say for your business plan, you can always use the SIC codes to get to the results you need and then cite the appropriate NAICS code that's in the record as well. Notice I could break it down by zip code if I want. Sales volumes, boy, you want that kind of insight along with employment size. So I give you those top 7 here right off the bat. And in this top position are physicians and surgeons, and that's because they're all 1099 guys and gals. It's followed by restaurants, then dentists, nurse practitioners, insurance, physician's assistants, and attorneys. We don't stop at just the top 7, though. I give you a full report. Notice this report is 52 pages in length. We'll always give you the primary SIC code that business is under, along with that description for that primary SIC code, and then the number of records that apply. So if I wanted to get into this group of attorneys, I could click on this 111 and it will take me to that group of 111. So know you can move around even in our charts functionality. I'm going to cheat though, and I want to go back. And I wanted to show you, obviously, if you switch this up, let's look at it from employment size. And granted, we're looking at your entire community. You could be looking at 1 or 2 or 3 specific industries that you intend on working within. So here's my sales volumes for the entire community, largest group being that of 500,000 or less at 46%, followed by 500 to 1 million, etc. So we give you that kind of view. You can print this off or you can make it part of a PowerPoint presentation so that perhaps you're going to include that in your business plan. We also give you this breakdown by employment size. Maybe you have a business and that business is predicated on the number, or the sales that you would make would be predicated on the number of employees that work at these various businesses. So you've got that breakdown as well. So we'll always give you that. And I know from all the other SCORE groups that I've worked with across the country, this is a terrific tool by which to include in that business plan. In fact, Gita mentioned that the business program, I did the New York Public Libraries program yesterday. So it is a awfully powerful tool, and it's nationwide. So it doesn't matter if your business does business just in the Round Rock area or maybe within a few counties, or maybe you do some business nationally. So I can always revise my search, and I got to this information by just putting in Round Rock and Texas. The real search capability is available under advanced search. And by the way, additional filters, this is like the back door into advanced search. So when you open that page, you're presented then with this list of all these various filters. And notice there are a number of them. And I'll explain the use of some of these so that when you begin to build your queries, you'll know what to apply and what perhaps not to apply. Just know the more filters that you select, the tighter the funnel becomes, the fewer results you'll ultimately see, which in some cases might be spot on, but in other cases, maybe for a marketing purpose, you want more records that would apply. Let me point out company name. We saw under quick search where I could look for one company by name. This allows me to look at company by name, and I can add as many of those that I would like. So if IBM were one and Delta were another one, I can add as many businesses by name and then simply select my geography. The real test in this is that you have the appropriate spelling of that business that you're looking for. I helped a patron who was looking for a specific business, and I'll just do that real quick. It was called Baltimore Licks. So we added that to the list. I'll get rid of these other two. And then we just added the city of Baltimore, Maryland. It was that simple. One would think, well, I ended up finding out through the process that we needed to dig a little deeper. So whenever you're using the city state option, just type in the city, hit go, and it will come up with the availability of those various cities in whatever state they might be in. So I'll do Baltimore, Maryland. I'm looking at just my verified records. Unverified business records would be those records that we've not been able to verify anymore. Perhaps we started calling them in January of this year and we didn't reach them. We don't stop after one attempt. We'll try for a dozen attempts throughout the course of 24 months. And if we're not able to keep that record verified and we haven't found that they've closed, we move them from this status into the unverified. So let's see if we can find this Baltimore Licks in Baltimore, Maryland. No records found. So at that point in time, I just added the next group, no records found. And then I added closed because I wanted, maybe it was a closed business. No luck at all. So the next step was to throw out the company name altogether. And I simply asked her, what kind of business is Baltimore Licks? She told me it was an ice cream parlor. You can see I'd done this before. So I searched for the SIC code using the keyword description ice cream parlors. There's my description. I added that. Now I did take out the unverifieds and the closed because I just wanted to look for verifieds at this point. You can see I've got 51 records. I can view those records. And notice it starts with Baskin Robbins because there is no Anthony's ice cream. So it starts with Baskin Robbins. And notice Be More Licks. She was confused. It wasn't Baltimore Licks. It was Be More Licks. And I even had her pull up the website so that she could see the outside of that building. She just got confused with Baltimore's best homemade ice cream and had convinced herself that it was called Baltimore Licks, when in fact it was Be More. So know that there are alternative approaches that you can take to finding business information if in fact that name did not work for you. So know you can always get to, and perhaps maybe we didn't have that record. Businesses do have the ability, if they would like, to opt out of the database. So know you can do a lot of different types of searching depending on what your needs might be, but we'll always give you company name otherwise. So you don't need the company name because we'll produce it for you. Same thing would be true with this executive information, but perhaps maybe what you need is to find businesses that have an owner present. That's one of the questions we ask when we're doing our verification phone calls. Who's that owner or manager of that business? So if you wanted only owners present, and again, it could be by type of business or just any business, maybe in a zip code or two, you get to be the driver. If you needed just owners, great. If perhaps an owner weren't present, maybe you'd accept a manager. If that's the case, you could try both. You may get both, but for sure you'll get one or the other. So no, you can certainly use any of these as filters, but we'll also always give you this information in any of the records that you produce where we can get it. So I mentioned the keyword search and I showed you how to do that with ice cream parlors. Let me show you this major industry group search. It is just the SIC codes. And it starts off with the 2-digit numbers that Uncle Sam assigned these various types of businesses. And I'll just go with construction here. So notice you've got 15, 16, and 17. If you need to see or want to see those definitions, click the plus symbol and it will give you a definition for each of those 2-digit codes. You can continue to follow any particular track you would like to go down. I'll say, let's look under general contractors. So then you get this 4-digit number, and this was as granular as it would get under Uncle Sam. We added 2 more digits so that you could be this granular. And I actually helped a niece of mine who lives up in Dallas, and she needed to find last year in February some of those businesses that do water damage restoration for homes. And so I showed her this through the Dallas Public Library. And I also suggested to her that she select search primary SIC only. In other words, when you select this, you're telling the system, I only want to see those businesses that do this kind of work day in and day out. So no, you can get that kind of specific, and this is kind of a nice visual representation that you can use to get to the kind of data that you might ultimately need. So you can use either the keyword search or the major industry group, does not matter. Geography kind of speaks for itself. I will show you this map-based search tool. You might really want to use this in some cases. Phone kind of speaks for itself. Business size. If you need that information, remember when we were looking at the chart, we had both number of employees and sales volumes listed. So if you need to search by number of employees to see records that apply a certain number of employees, you could do that. Otherwise, we'll always give you that. And by the way, when we're making our verification phone calls, about 72% of the businesses will give us an exact number. Those that don't answer that question, maybe they refuse to answer that, maybe they're not certain, maybe they say, we're in a hiring phase right now and I'm not certain what we're going to end up with for a number of employees. If they can't answer that question, we look at their peers in that area based on their SIC code and we'll apply a range. So just know that when you're looking at that in the record, if you see an exact number, we got that in our phone call, you see a range, we applied it. And as it relates to sales volume, by the way, if it's a privately held company, we always model that information. We learned a long time ago, you don't call a business and say, hey, by the way, how much do you think you're going to produce next year in terms of sales without that phone call perhaps ending suddenly. So with that said, if it's a publicly traded company, we'll get that from their 10K report. If it's private, it's always modeled. And the same thing would be true with the business expenditures. So no, you can use any or both of those filters if you wanted to. Ownership. Obviously, you could decide on public or private if that's important. If you're looking at, let's say that you want to find single locations, in other words, not a part of a larger system that would be a branch, you could select headquarters branch, and we actually give you 4 options here. So if you needed those single locations, you could drive in those kinds of results as well. And I do like to point out we have home-based businesses. So if you were doing maybe just a search in a city or in a few zip codes, and you wanted home-based businesses to show up included with all the other businesses, you don't have to do anything here. However, if you need to only see home-based businesses, you can filter it that way, or you could exclude them if you did not want them included in your end results. And we'll always give you that financial data where we have that available. There are some special selections. If you needed those businesses that have web addresses, you could include that, or those social links they might use. Maybe you need to know about businesses that are similar to your business that have opened up in the last, let's say, 2 or 3 years. You could drive in those results as well. Just select year 2 and year 3, and then you can produce, again, those businesses that are just like yours or just new businesses and get that information. Of course, you're going to select whatever geography would be important. So know you could search it that way. Maybe you want those businesses that have been around for a while. If 12 years were your high water mark and you wanted everything 12 years or older, you could do it that way as well. So know you can apply as many or as few of those filters as you need in order to produce ultimately what you want to see. I do like to point out professionals. We saw when I produced the chart just for the city of Round Rock, we had a lot of physicians and surgeons, we had a lot of dentists, attorneys. If you were going to make a list and you wanted to be able to just get one record for each office, each of those professional offices, you could do that. Maybe you don't want to mail to every attorney in an attorney's office, but rather one primary contact. You could certainly change that default from all to one. So know that that is equally available. That would help with some of those costs, especially if you were intending, and we know a lot of people will download our records because they want to be able to make mailing labels and send something. So that would help control some of the costs related to that mailing. And then we give you a lot of ways to exclude information. One of, and you may have noticed this on our chart, we do have records for ATMs. If you didn't care to have ATM machines show up in your records, you could choose to omit those. And as long as you've left this in play, whatever it might be, and you can add multiples, right? We also have kiosks. So if you wanted to exclude kiosks, you could do that as well. As long as you've left that in play, you'll never produce records for those that you've selected, including previously saved searches. So if you wanted to omit that, you could do that as well. Let's do a simple search. Questions? Was there a question coming there, Gita? Okay, let's do a simple search. I'm going to do keyword and we'll just do restaurants because I need some numbers in order to show you some of the filters. So we'll go with restaurants. And as you can see, I've done this a lot, so it's come up. Otherwise, you're going to have to type it all in. I'll search for that. The system's going to go out and identify the SIC code that would be responsible for all restaurants. So McDonald's, as well as Chili's, as well as fine dining or a quick diner. So I've got that information. Notice it's a 6-digit code. And also take a look at this. Notice when I get down to related matches here, we took it from a 6-digit and made it a 7-digit so that you could get specific about the types of restaurants maybe that you'd like to see. And we do that through the number 9, and then we switch it to an alpha. So no, you could get that kind of specific. If you needed to compare Chinese restaurants, right? You could do that. Or if you needed certain chain restaurants, notice that's now a 9-digit. So you could get very specific if you needed to. And I'm looking at all SIC codes. Let's do this. You're in Williamson County there. So in this case, I'll just grab Texas. And as you can see, I get all the counties. I can either scroll down to the W's or I can just start keying that in and select that county. I could add another county. If there were another county that I wanted to add, I could even do a different state and county in that other state. Just depends on how you need to build your search. So across the county, as it relates to restaurants, and I'm searching all SIC codes, there are a total of 1,176. But watch what happens if I employ search only primary. Watch what happens to my number. So 957. So it got rid of restaurants that were in Walmart or restaurants that are in a bowling alley or maybe movie theaters that offer a dining experience. We've gotten rid of all of those, and we've told the system, I only want to see those businesses that this is their primary line of business. I can view those results. And since this is, maybe you've got a product you want to be able to sell into restaurants, you can chart this again. Granted, we're only looking at one SIC code in one county. So the system then will break it down by the city view. So it gives me those top 7 cities. And if there are other cities in the county, I can find them down here, which there are a few. So know you can move around within the chart that way. And if you need to see it from a sales volume standpoint, you can certainly break it down in that fashion, or based on employment size. And we know that when we did employment size, when we were looking at the entire community of Round Rock, that 1 to 4 was that largest group. Does that hold true when we're looking at restaurants? You don't see 1 to 4 until you get down here in this 4th position. 10 to 9 is actually that largest universe at nearly 50%. So again, a great way to evaluate that universe that you're looking at. I can also, instead of charting this, if I would like a visual representation of where all these 957 restaurants are at, I can put them on this heat map. It's a density map. And it will then present it to me in this fashion based on the county. So where you have red, there are lots of restaurants in those areas. Where it's more yellow, fewer, green, even less. And of course, no color, there are no restaurants in there. And this is my 40,000 foot view. I also have the ability, if you look on this left-hand column, notice I can change the zoom on the map. I can drill in on the map. And once I have fewer than 300 records in my view, this is what you'll get. So let's drill in here a bit. I need to readjust the screen, pardon me. And Notice it's now going to pinpoint all of those locations. It gives you this legend here on this left-hand side. And if I wanted to know where the Cotton Patch Cafe was, I can click on that and it will take me to where that record's at. So if that would be something that's useful for you, again, you can, if you would like to, make this part of a PowerPoint presentation or simply print it off. If you wanted to get to this one record, you just click on the title here and it will take you to that record. If there's more than one in a location, like it shows here, there are 6 different results all located right in there. So I could continue drilling in to try and get those broken apart, or I can just click on there and see what's there. There's an Olive Garden and a Willie's and a First, oh, I like First Watch, a Wing Street and Jason's Deli. So they're all densely populated in that one area. So no, you can certainly move around that way as well. Any questions as to the chart and or this heat map? Okay, let's keep going then. I'm going to revise this search. I'll leave restaurants because there are so many and I need some numbers. So I'll leave that in play, but I'm going to take out the county altogether. I'm going to add some other factors here. I want those businesses with web addresses, and I want them to employ a certain number of employees. And let's say the 1 to 4, and we'll go with that 20 to 49. So now what I'm going to open up for my geography is I'll just do this map-based search tool. And there are several different tools within it. And you would open this after you've made all your selections that you want to include. Open it up then. It will bring you to this view of the United States. And in the upper left-hand corner where it says zoom to, you would either put in a physical address. You could put in just a zip code, a county, state, a city, state, of course. It just depends on how you'd like to do that. I'll just put in, let's just go with Round Rock. I'll put in Round Rock and go, and it takes me right there. So I have the ability to draw my own shape. I can use a true radius. I have some predetermined boundaries. You can even make a drive route using this tool. So depending on how you want that to work, I'm going to draw my shape first. It's quite simple. You click on that icon. You can see it kind of shaded it a little bit of gray there. And then I get to decide where in the world do I want to begin. You know, I can start out here if I wanted to. So if I click it there, it's a single click to begin it. And then which way do I want to go? Maybe I'll stop there. And maybe I need to go down to this point and come across here. I can double click to finish it, and then the system will calculate how many of those businesses match all my criteria that are in this shape. So no, you can do that. As you can see, you would just say done here. There's those 57 results, and you just click on view results. You do have the ability using any of these tools to also alter maybe something in this shape. So there are 57 total results in there right now. I'm going to draw in here again, and I'm going to say, I'm going to come right here, and I'm going to come over this way and up to here. And I'm going to, in shape 2, there are 14 results that are part of this 57. I'm going to exclude them. And I can do that by double clicking in the new shape that I just built and exclude that. Say okay, and that 14 will be deducted from that 57. And as you can see, I'm ready to give you those results. So no, you can even alter things within a shape if you need to, for whatever reason. I helped a gentleman from a small business development center do this. And afterwards I asked him, because he had a couple of spots that he needed to exclude, and it was in Tallahassee, Florida. And I said, did we just exclude a couple of government agencies, or what did we just get rid of? And he said, my client was rather superstitious and didn't want the cemeteries included. So we altered that. So no, anything can be altered. I also have this true radius. Now, imagine that you have your business at this location and you want to do a radius around that area for some information about businesses that you intend on marketing to. I helped a restaurant do this to market their catering services over the holidays. And they did a 5-mile radius around each of their locations in order to call those businesses to see if they could sell them their catering services. So you would select define radius, and then you come back to wherever you need to begin. If this is that beginning point, fine. If it needs to be somewhere else, that's fine. It's up to you. So I can select that, I click it, hold it, and drag it away. And you can see I'm already out to about 3 miles right there. So if that's all the further I needed to go, I can let go, and then the system will calculate how many I have in that area. Well, that number looks familiar again. So know you can do that. And you can even alter this. Helped a gentleman who wanted to do this for the purpose of expanding his delivery area. So we put in his physical address and then came back to it, and we created this donut hole. This second shape that I'm going to exclude was his old delivery radius, and this was the new one. He wanted just the records for this area, and he was going to do that on the business side, as because it gets plenty of business customers, and on the consumer side. So this map, this tool, is available in our consumer lifestyles as well. If that's all I need, again, I can say done and view my results and get those. But I have these predetermined boundaries. So maybe I want to look at it based on the zip codes. And I'm going to back up a little bit. You've got some sizable zip codes in the area. I can click in any zip code that makes sense to me, and it will then deliver how many of those businesses match my criteria that are in that zip code. So it looks like I have these 45, 18, and 23. As you can see, I'm ready with that 86. So know you can use any of these tools to help produce ultimately what you would like to see then. I'm going to delete those guys. And let's do this. I'm going to return to my tools, and I'm going to back out here a little ways. I'm going to go on my drive route from Round Rock to Liberty Hill. And Round Rock. If in fact I misspelled that, or maybe it wasn't even a city in an area, the system would always correct me, and it would be pink, and it wouldn't let me go any further. Notice I can create my own buffer distance. So how far off of center, meaning that road it's going to take me down, how far off do I want to go? It's 15 miles each side of that roadway. So it's really a total of 30. I'll just say 0.3, 3 blocks on either side, and I'm going to create my route. So the system is taking me from Round Rock up here to Georgetown and then over to Liberty Hill. And it says that there are 32 results that match my criteria that are along that roadway. I can say done, and then view my results. And if I would like to, I helped a gentleman do this up in Wisconsin. He was looking for some specific types of businesses between two communities. And we put them back on the heat map so he could see exactly where they were. So it always gives you this view like there's a storm there over Round Rock, but I hope there's not. And I can begin to drill in, and it might take me 6 or 7 clicks to do this. You do have to give it time to process. But eventually you'll have that left-hand column and you'll have all of these locations broken down by their pinpoints along that same roadway. Probably not surprising that you see those clusters in and around that Georgetown intersection there between 35 and 29. So if that would be beneficial to you, you've got that as well. Any questions about how I produced any of these results? If not, let's do this. I'll leave the US business database and I'm going to select reference solutions. This is my navigation page. It'll bring me right back to the home page. And then I can go to another database if I'd like. And I do want to show you the US new business. So if you're looking at businesses that are similar to yours that have filed within a period of time, and the maximum period of time in the US new businesses is 1 year, let me show you the amount of data that I have here. And I'll just go right to advanced search. And I'll just do the city. So we'll do Round Rock. And go. And there's my Texas. And let's do this. Let's use the date range. It always defaults, whenever there's a date range involved, it always defaults to 6 months. Could be as recent as last week or within the last year. Let's do the last 3 months. So these are business filings in the last 3 months, 376. I can view that information. And here's one of those records. So you're going to have that location information. We've got that phone number. Nothing else other than doing business as in a commercial site. Nothing else was provided in that process. So when they filled that out through the Secretary of State's office, they did not include this other information. So I have that. And I'm also able, since I have the ability to chart it, I can also chart that information and get a sense of those businesses that have opened up or that have filed in the last 3 months. So know you can always break it down this way as well. Not nearly as much information, and there aren't necessarily as many filters here either. Not nearly as many filters. So let's go back to the US business database. Gita, do you all have in Round Rock there, do you have Arby's? I'll just check. I'll do Arby's in Round Rock. I'd like to use their record example. Do I have any? Oh, I do. I've got one. So notice, whenever you're looking at company records, you're always going to see this company name, that executive information, where we can get that physical address, city, state, zip. And then we have corporate tree. The up arrow will produce one record and one record only. That would be the subsidiary that's responsible for all the Arby's. Or if there weren't a subsidiary, it would take you to the ultimate parent. This will show you their entire organizational flow chart. So let me click on that icon. Notice Arby's is actually owned by this Work Capital Group. It's a private equity company. out of Atlanta, Georgia. They have 44 total subsidiaries, this being one of them, and almost 40,000 branches. There is a legend that runs across the top here. So quickly I can identify that this PV is a private company. And if I want to see the other 43 subsidiaries, I can simply close this one or collapse it, and there they all are. So I'm sure as you look at that list, you're seeing many businesses that are probably in your community. So if I were planning on trying to sell something to Arby's, I might also want to sell something to Carl Jr.'s or Hardee's, or there's that Jimmy John's. Just depends on what my business plan might call for. So you'll always be given this kind of corporate look, and you can download this information. You could open up these branches if you'd like to see what's about those Jimmy John's. It just depends on what you would ultimately need. And let's go back to that record. So I have that corporate tree information out here, but if I open the record, and this is a perfect example of what you're going to get with a record, you're always going to be given this location information first. So I have all that address information. In this case, I have their website and those social links that they use. I also have that corporate tree information inside the record. So if that would be beneficial to you, that's there as well. Then those job listings, followed by that industry profile. We know that we were looking specifically for those with that SIC code, that was their primary line of business. Then I have the business profile. So where we have a business profile, we won't have one on every business, but where we have that business profile, I always encourage people to review that information. You may learn something new about that business. I also have Google Maps embedded in here because I have the latitude and longitude in the background. So I always know where these folks are at. Then I have the business demographics. So we just updated this record for our annual update here this month. And when we contacted them, they told us they had 16 employees. That number of 16 helps go into that model that we produce for that sales number. And we have some other factors. We're also looking at how long they've been in business, where they're physically in business at, because we have to build in some variables for that. And then we get some information through the Bureau of Labor Statistics in order to finalize that model. Then we have the management directory. So where we can capture this, we will. Company news, we get this through Bing, and it's loaded based on when something is available through Bing or any of the sources that they might utilize. So you can see this was last updated early this morning. And you can even get to older articles by coming down here and choosing more. So it just depends on what you might need. Stock data, we wouldn't put stock data on a branch. We know that this is a privately held company. We would only put stock data on that parent. Then some business expenditures, followed by a couple of historical records. So 21 and 20. Then we also have any kind of UCC filings. So if this business had taken out a loan and put something up as collateral, that would be captured there. And then nearby businesses, again, because we have that latitude and longitude, so we know who's next to whom. And every record, as long as it's for profit, will have a listing as it relates to competitors, which would be other restaurants in this case. And you can go into those other restaurants. If I wanted to get into this A&W for whatever reason, I could get into that as well as need be. So know you can move around from one record to the next, even in a record's information. And I can download these records. I'm going to go ahead and go with advanced search again. And we'll just grab some of those restaurants because we know there's plenty of those. Did everybody have lunch, I hope? If not, you're probably going to be hungry by the time I'm done here. So let's go with the city again. And I'll put in Round Rock and go. And Texas, not Arizona. I'll view my results. And I have the ability to download this information. I can print it, or I can save this entire search. And we know that since this is being updated annually, if I've saved this search and come back to it a couple of months later, that number may have increased, or it may have, unfortunately decreased, right? If I'd like to download this information, and I always need to know how many downloads I can do at a time. So it's 250, that's 10 pages because there are 25 records per page. So I can select this box next to company name and then advance to page 2. And you can get pretty quick at being able to do this, right? Part of it might be the speed of your internet provider, but you can get pretty darn quick at grabbing these records and preparing them for download. So there's my 9 and 10. So there's my 250. The system doesn't stop me. You will want to stop at that magic number of 250. And then you can select download records. The system will always give you under step 1, comma delimited as your first option. If you intend on making mailing labels, this is mailing label friendly. Still drops it into a form of Excel. If summary would be enough information, which in most cases it is, it will provide you the name of that business, their address, phone number, who that owner or manager is, what their name and title would be, sales volume, number of employees, line of business, all of that would be captured. Notice you can email these records. So if you were doing this, but you were sending them to your partner, you could email them to your partner. Here's what that download is going to look like. And just understand that my Excel document that's presented here, this is static. I can't add more information to it. I can adjust these cells, but I can't add more information to it. So if you would like, maybe you're going to download 500 records or 750, however many you might want to download. If you want to save them in one Excel document, I would do a copy and paste from mine into your own. So you would open up your own version of Excel, paste this in there, minimize yours, come back here to mine, close it. It'll always leave you on this instructional page, and you can simply select back. And the important part here is deselecting these check marks. Otherwise, you'll produce the same 10 pages, right? You don't want to do that. Easiest way to get rid of these check marks is revise search. It takes you right back here to how we built it. View those results. It brings you back to page 1. It's removed all of those check marks. And then you just have to remember what page to start with, which would be page 11, and enter. And then you can go about getting more records as you need to. It just depends on how you need to ultimately access these records. So know that you can do that as much as you need to with 250 at a time. Any questions regarding downloading information? Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of this consumer information. then, and I'll go right down here to the bottom first and start with the new movers and new homeowners. So if knowing about people that have recently moved into your community is important because you want to perhaps market to them, you could certainly create a list. I'll go right in here. Again, it's going to bring me to this quick search. I'd go right over to advanced search because that's going to allow you again to use the various filters that you may want to use in order to take a look at this. So let's do your entire community. And go, and there it is. And I want to say move distance and time frame. And I realized that Austin is a stone's throw away. So if we didn't want to include folks from Austin, let's say that we want to begin at 50 miles. So this will go out a radius around the community of 50 miles, and it won't start providing any records until you've gotten 50 or higher. And let's go 2950 for the number of miles we're going to go out. And again, notice it always defaults to that 6 months. Could be as recent as last week or within the last year. Let's take a look at the last 3 months. So these are people that are relatively new to your community. I have a total of 595 people who've moved from at least 50 miles away up to 2950. Maybe I want to change this. Maybe I want to say, you know what, let's make that 100. What is that going to do to my total? Didn't do that much. Didn't lose that many records. So people have moved a distance to come into Round Rock. If needing home ownership information is important, we could do that. So we have our confirmed homeowners, our probable, or our renters. I helped a gentleman identify these renters the other day because he sells renters insurance and wanted to be able to get to the audience. So let's see how many confirmed or probable homeowners I have out of this 553. 195. So if I have some kind of product or service that I want to be able to sell to these new homeowners, or at least to market to them, I could get to that audience. And here's what that information is going to look like. And again, since I can download 250, I could do this entire group in one download. So here's that information. I'm always going to have that address information. Rarely have I ever seen a phone number when people have filled out that national change of address. We always have this information about telephone numbers displayed, may be on the do not call list and should not be used for phone solicitation. Ultimately, you're responsible for that compliance. And I would add to that, you can have, and we can do it for you. Of course, there's a charge, or you can go directly to the do not call registry and they will charge you, but you can have any list cleaned. And by cleaning, I mean a list will be sent back to you that you could then call against. So let's take a look at Michael's here. I have that address information. Confirmed homeowner, moved from 737 miles away to come to this address. Then, of course, I'll have that neighborhood information. We get that through the Census Bureau, and then make some adjustments based on what we're seeing with census. They do provide us with this age range. So that's the extent of the record, except for applying the map. But every one of my tools that I showed you in the US business database would apply here as well. I just happen to be looking at the entire city, but I could be using my map-based search tool if I need to. Just depends on what someone may need. And just like downloading those businesses, I can download this information. Questions on the new movers or no homeowners? There are certainly several other filters that might that might be important to you. Just depends on what your needs are.
Hey, Bill, there's a couple of questions in the chat, and one of our participants has been trying to find somebody. She knows their name and they have a brick and mortar store, but they don't show up in the database. What would you do in that situation?
And did we look for them by the type of business that they're in? Was that mentioned by chance?
This was Mandy. You could unmute yourself, Mandy, and ask the question if you'd like. We've got Bill's attention right now. All right, don't be shy.
Okay, can you hear me now? Sorry,
No, absolutely.
It wouldn't let me unmute. Sorry. No, I did find them, but I'm kind of having a secondary issue. So I initially searched, could not find them, but the problem is what I'm seeing is that they're not in a more specific industry. They're in a wider industry. So it's catching a whole bunch of other businesses at a higher level.
What is the, can you open up the record and tell us what the SIC code is?
Yes, the SIC code is 5461-02.
And what does that stand for?
It's under just Baker's Retail,
Oh,
not.
gotcha.
So I don't want all bakers. I want specific bakers just for pet food. And it won't go down to that.
Right. And it might not. You know what? That's kind of a niche business, right?
Right.
So let's go. But you know what? It's those kinds of examples, I think, that are certainly useful to explore. So let's go to open up, please. There it goes. I'll go to SIC code, and you put in just bakers, right?
Well, I put in the specific company name initially because see, I don't want just all bakers because that gives me all.
You want it pet.
Right.
Correct?
Pet. Yes. Correct. Pet specific.
Let's see if I can find anything. And sometimes it might be we might change up this.
Yeah, I mean, they have wholesale pet retailers and pet food manufacturers, but that's a real generic, and it seems to be catching a lot of like livestock.
Others. Yes.
And things like that, which I don't necessarily want.
Correct. And it might just be that unique of a business that you would almost have to eyeball those in if you wanted to find more than just that one, right?
So let me ask you, is there a way that I can remove? So like if I did, if you go back up a little bit to Baker's Retail, go back down a little bit to Baker's Retail, or pet food manufacturers, any one of those. Is there a way that I can, once it pops up a list, that I can remove them so that I could do a heat map and say, okay, yeah, it showed me 100 responses, but I only want these 5.
Right. What you would need to do then is you would actually just need to download those 5. You wouldn't be able to put just those 5 on the heat map. The way the system is set is it's looking for whatever you've chosen as this whole. So it won't allow you to just point out, I want this one and I want this one and I want this one on my map. Yeah, it won't do that for you.
Okay.
But you could download just those 5 by cherry picking, by just grabbing that individual record or those individual records.
Right. It'll definitely help me with seeing how, their, the size of their business. It just won't help as far as the heat map, show how close they are to me. Okay.
Let's do this. I'm going to, just for the heck of it, I'll go, there's got to be some pet boutiques and breeders in your community. I'll just let's do Round Rock and see what I get for. I want to show you something real quick. That brings a thought to mind.
Okay.
I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. Do I have some records there? I do. Yeah. So when I say cherry picking, instead of grabbing the entire, all 13 in this case, What you could do is just say, you know what, I want that one, I want this one, I want this one, and I want this one.
Perfect. Okay.
And
Then I
then
just need to go through. Okay.
when you select download, then you just get those 4.
Got
or
it.
5 or whatever. Yeah. So you
Okay.
could do that. Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
I wish there were a way you can. Those are so unique. Let me do this. Let me, oh, I like this. I like this business name. I'm going to open that record up. Let's say that you know this business.
Mhm.
And there's something, let's go down here to, so we just updated them in February, and it says that they have 10 employees. Let's imagine for a moment that you know this business and they actually have 15 employees. You could tell us about that. Any of our records can be updated, whether they're business records or consumer records. You would select this data feedback button, and you would simply come down. Notice it says it's going to get sent off to these researchers, and that they'll obviously follow up with updating that information. So what this is telling them to do, let's get rid of that 10 and we'll go with 15. You would simply fill out this information, submit it to us. It'll go to that group of researchers, and then we'll send you an immediate email back thanking you for that query. And within 48 hours, as long as it's not during the weekend, we'll get that updated. We'll call and verify that information. And when we call, if they say, you know what, we don't have 15, we have 13, then of course we're going to put in whatever they've told us. But we will send you an update having had done that. So know that that is something that you can do on any record. And I want to mention this. If a business isn't in the database, they can go to www.expressupdate, all one word, expressupdate.com. They can claim their business. As soon as they do that, they'll be sent an 800 number to call in, and then we'll get it verified on the spot and get that added. To know that it can be added if someone would like to get their new business added to the database. Let's do this. I want to show you our consumer lifestyles database. I helped a lady who was in Scottsdale, Arizona. She has a boarding kennel. She already explored using the US business database, her competition. Now she wanted to identify those people in her community, in a certain part of her community, I should say that were dog lovers. In the consumer lifestyles information, we have that kind of data. So we're getting this information about these lifestyle indices through different sources, like surveys that people have completed. I know I travel a lot for work, and I get surveys from all the rental car companies. I get surveys from the hotels. I get surveys from the airlines. I get surveys from the different memberships that I have as it relates to my meals. So I get a lot of surveys. People don't realize that when they're completing these surveys, they may be going to or being shared with company partners like us. So surveys, magazine sales. I was not in the lifestyles database when I first moved back into Omaha, but my dog got sick, found out I needed to change his dog food formula. I started purchasing all of my dog products for him at Petco. I soon became identified as a dog lover. So this is exactly what we went to for this lady in Scottsdale. We went into those dog lovers. Of course, we had to select the city, right? So open that up. I'll put in Scottsdale and go. There's my Scottsdale, Arizona. Now, I always encourage people, if you need to see, because she was going to end up doing a mailer to these dog lovers to let them know about her kennel. And this was actually last spring. So when we had vaccine and people were talking about traveling again, and we know that many more homes have pets in them now than before the pandemic. If you want to produce that list, but you don't want everyone at a household, but rather one primary contact, head of household, you could certainly do that. And I always encourage that, because the others are just wasted records, right? You don't want to send the same mail piece to 3 or 4 different people in the household. So across the city of Scottsdale, for dog lovers, there are a total of 3,300, almost 3,400 that fall into this scoring range. Notice it's 0 through 9, but when you select any of these, we will only show you those people who score a 6 or higher. So they are active in whatever category you have selected. So she wanted to see this universe. And this is exactly what we did. We went into that 3,300 and we charted it immediately. Because what she needed to see was income ranges. So we changed it up to income ranges, and you can see the various ranges that are listed here. So she wanted to use this information. What she was going to do was include every range beginning at 100 and ending at 299. So what we did in this case is we went back to the list. Now we needed to see the entire list. She knew the range that she wanted to do, but now we needed to see where these people were located. So we went to the heat map. Her business is right over here next to this Highway 51. So what she didn't want to market down here. She has competition down there, and it is she obtained some specific information about with a typical circumstance with kenneling, people are most likely to travel within 3 miles of their home to take their dog to a pet care place. So with that in mind, what she wanted to do was to kind of focus. You can see this word wind song. She really wanted to focus on this area, and she did want to go a little bit over into here, even though it's not considered Scottsdale proper over here. So here's what we did. We went back to our results, and the first thing that's important are those income ranges. So we revised the search, and I'm going to take out the city-state because we're going to use the map. And I'm going to go with home income. She wanted to start at 100 and go down to 299. So there are my ranges, those 6 ranges. I want to make sure we leave it at 1 per household. I'm going to open up my map now and deploy that. At which point in time, we just went right back into Scottsdale here. You can see I've done that before. And go. Now, first problem when you're looking at it from this view, you don't see that area called windsong. So there's a clue that you need to back out a little bit. I need a different view. So I still didn't see it, but when I got to that point, I could see it clearly right there. So what we did was we drew a shape. We started out where she's at, or in that rough area where she's at. She didn't go all the way to the 101, but she did want to come over into here and come right down here. I'll double click to finish it. There are 822. So remember when we started out, there were 3,300. So now there are 822 that match her criteria that are in that area. So what she was going to do is simply say done, view those results. Notice I have that same information about calling anyone that might be listed in here. And the same thing would apply. You could get a clean list either from us or by going directly to the do not call registry. You could download our information and send it to them. They would send you back a clean list, as would we. Notice it does state there are 139 of these 822 with email addresses. And this same message would be given to you as it relates to business results as well. When you select this more information, it's simply going to tell you to contact us. We sell that information. So in the case of consumers, if you wanted to make phone calls to them, you have to have a SAN number, etc. I'm sure you're learning all about that. So with that said, know that you can, if at some point in time, if you need to be able to or want to be able to do email correspondence, you can certainly do that with us. But in this case, she wanted to be able to obviously mail to this group. So what she was going to do is download this information, the 250 at a time. And so she was going to have to do several downloads to get that entire group. Once she had done that, she was going to bump that Excel document up against her master list of current customers, and anybody that was a duplicate would of course get rejected, and anyone that would be a new ad would get added, and then she was going to do a mail piece to that universe. So this 822, she probably has some current customers that are in there. So it wouldn't necessarily have been this entire group of 822. It may have only been 600. But now she's got 600 more leads to work with. Questions on that? And let's take a look at this record. So this is how each and every one of these consumer lifestyle records are going to look. We'll always have that address information. Everything we've seen about her is she's single, been in this home for about 20 years. There's some of that neighborhood information that we're getting through the Census Bureau, and then we make adjustments to that. And then there are the lifestyle characteristics. The only reason this record came in is because of her passion for dogs. We didn't ask anything about health and exercise. We didn't ask anything about her being a book buyer, just that she is a dog lover. So if I go back and build another search for, say, health and exercise, she may not show up in that search because she doesn't score in that 6 to 9. So just because you see that category listed here does not mean that she would necessarily score in that 6 to 9 range. There is some interest, but not necessarily enough to have her show up in that particular search.
Hey, Bill, we had some questions about Boolean searches.
Yes,
Could you?
I wish we had some.
I was going to say, could you show us one?
Yes, I wish we had some of those, but I don't.
Okay.
We need you to be very specific with what it is that you want to see, so we don't offer the Boolean searches.
That was an easy one.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Gosh, and I can't believe we've already gone over. I apologize. Might there be any other
Any other questions?
regarding the consumer data or any of these modules?
Any other questions? I know we had some of you muted, so you couldn't get in. Hopefully I let you out now, and you can unmute yourself if you have a question to ask. Please do so.
Or if you're still thinking about questions, if you could just say something that you learned today that surprised you, maybe somebody else didn't see that part or missed it, or you've looked at it differently.
Hi, I have a question. My name is Jorge. I joined a bit late, so I'd like to watch the recording to the first part of the presentation. Is the recording going to be sent via email later?
Yes, it'll be a link to the video, Jorge. So just watch your inbox for that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Let me do this. Let me send out my email address. If anyone would like to reach out, I would be more than happy to answer or help you create any kind of search. As long as it's data I have.
And Bill, would you just one more time point everyone to the webinars where they can do your various modules?
Yes. So when you come into, once you're logged into the database, you can select webinars here and give it a moment. It's going to populate. And you can scroll down and you can see the different webinars that we offer. So we have one we refer to it as our librarian's introduction, but I know that plenty of patrons have attended that. We have one that's referred to as the Search Essentials, one specifically for entrepreneurship. And it's very much like what I've done today. And then of course, the last and final one would be the job seeking, learning how to use the database for specific kinds of career searches. So absolutely, always feel free. And I did put my email address out there.
Thanks, Bill. Any more questions? There's another one in the chat, Bill. Do you have IBIS World database?
I believe that's would be directed to Gita, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, we don't. We don't have IBS World.
Anybody else? So anybody who wants to capture the chat, I'd suggest you do now so, including Karen, before we sign off. So we'll give you a couple of seconds to get that done. Any last minute comments, Bill? We thank very much for a great presentation. It's just mind-boggling how much stuff is in there, and you could spend days just poking around looking at interesting things.
And it is so darn user friendly. I mean, granted, I want to be able to show as many of those tools that might be used by the audience at large, but I know that not everybody's necessarily going to use the map-based search tool, for example. But those that might want to use that could certainly do so. So yeah, it may seem like a lot, but it really is quite user friendly.
Bill, great presentation. You covered so much ground in such a short time. So at least people can now know what's available, and then it's for them to dive in deep into data and find specific things that they need. You covered so much ground. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And no, I'm available at any time to do more of these.
Great. Thanks a lot. And thank you too, Gita, for organizing everything today. Much appreciated. All right. I think we're about ready to wrap up. Thanks everybody for attending. Have a great weekend, and probably see you back next week.
Well, here's to no more ice storm.
Or intake.
thank you.
Jorge was not on there. So the revised list. also
Okay,
recorded.
I only gave access to 2 people. Send the link because registration had closed, but Jorge wasn't one of them. So I'm not sure why he's not on your list. But I have his email. He's one of the participants in the Biz.ability in the business plan competition.
Well, I'll copy you or I'll send you the link as well. And that way, if somebody comes looking that didn't get it, you can. provide
Okay,
it.
sounds good, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good
We'll
weekend.
see you.
Would you mind sending me the final head count?
Sure. Yes.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank
Take care.
you. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Grant and Bill.
Bye.
Goodbye.